Welcome everyone yet again to another Ticket Freaks 212. I am your host Carlos C, and as always, we're here to talk to you about movies. Now on today's topic, we will be discussing my top 10 favorite movies of this year, 2013. Now, keep to mind, there are some spoiler alerts in this movie, and just also keep in mind, every film is subjective, so you might not like my list, you might like my list, and if you do, feel free to leave a comment below. Otherwise, hey, it's my list, I get to pick whatever movie I want. Anyways, moving on. Also, I'd like to thank my sister for this lovely hat. It's actually pretty awesome, and I love it until this very day now. Merry Christmas for that one. So let us begin. Entering at number 10. Yes, Thor 2: The Dark World had to be on my list. I know what you're thinking. Should have gone with the other movies. Well, let me just say this. Thor 2 was one of my favorite movies. The reason why I like it so much is because the villain, even the villain himself wasn't that interesting, but the sidekick behind him, the partner in crime right next to him, I thought he was pretty awesome. And Loki always stealing the show in this movie. The story was interesting, and it gave you a little hint on a certain possibility of a Thor 3 or an Avengers 2 having plot with Loki involved in it. So I had to put this in my list. Still really an awesome movie. You got to see the characters really come to life. Asgard really did do its part in this movie, or actually got more of a part in this movie, so that's why I had to put this. And it still had its humor. So, entering number 9. Had to be my movie to put at number 9, because though it wasn't really that horrifying, I still love the fact it was based on a true event, and you have this husband and wife who are like Ghostbuster hunters, and one is like psychic and the other one's kind of like a priest in a sense. And they just keep hunting, and then eventually got to a big case where it just was a mess. It was just like suspense, horror, thriller. I thought it was really a suspenseful movie, I'll say that. It really took me off the edge of my seat the entire movie, so that's why it's on my list. Number 8. Yes, I am not a comic book fan, okay? I'm not the biggest comic book fan. I do my research on some comic books because I do want to contribute into being a little bit of a comic book nerd. But I will say this as a movie-going fan. I didn't like the Mandarin twist. Okay, a lot of people are complaining about it being because of comic book fans. No, even a movie-going fan did not like the twist. I'm not 8 or 10 years old. That did not surprise me, or it didn't really seem like a mind-blowing explosion. I was disappointed in that. So to put that in there was not really necessary, but I will give it to this. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. still playing the perfect Tony Stark. Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Pepper, she got involved more in this movie. War Machine actually does his part in this movie. You got to see a little more of him. Still the humor here and there, and you got to see Iron Man suits go one-on-one with human-like torches. So, had to put this on my list. Number 7. Okay, maybe I'm not too familiar with the story, but let me see if I am. Because if I remember in Monster Incorporated, I might be wrong. You guys can correct me if you like. Put a comment below, just correct me. But I'm pretty sure they were in Monster Incorporated discussing their childhood together. So I don't know how they just met in college or the university when I believe they've known each other since their whole life. But I could be mistakenly wrong. But that's just my personal opinion. But all in all, the movie was fun, entertaining, it was delightful. It still had its great humor, and one of the monsters' parents gets their type of music. It's soothing and like relaxing with a heavy metal. So, yeah, I mean that was really funny. So I had to put this on my list. Number 6. Yes, Pacific Rim had to be on this list because it was the final movie standing in the TF Rumble Championship match. And let me just say, this because it's not number 1 doesn't mean that it wasn't still one of the greatest movies I've seen this year. It was very different. The CGI visual effects were beautifully masterfully done. I love seeing robots and aliens going one-on-one with each other. It was just incredible. Charlie Hunnam, Charlie Day, everybody in this cast was not the biggest role in the movies, but they did do their part. It still had its humor, its action, suspense, its tragedy. So I have to give this movie some credit, and I got to give it credit more just because of how much they put effort on the CGI in this movie. So it had to be on my list. And to number 5 was the reason why this is on my movie list. Well, let's just be realistic here. It is kind of like a stoner movie, but it's my kind of humor. Let's not even also forget that this was kind of a movie that was just not even like, it was like a Finding Waldo, but instead of actually looking for that one character, you got to see all these actors and actresses show up, and then you're like, oh my god, I know who that is. You know, you just start pointing them out, and you're like, oh my god, I know them from here and there, so and so. And even though they were there for a brief moment, they were still funny. And the characters themselves, the main characters, you got to see a tad bit of just their real natural themselves in the situation. If they were being raptured and the situation did occur. And the ending itself was awesome. I did love the ending because it did bring me back to my childlike wonders and my childhood years. Number 4. Okay, this had to make it to my list, obviously, because it was adorable. It was better than the first one. You got to see Groot become a father. The kids got a little more parts in the movie. It still had its humor. The villain was amazing. The minions got a little more time. You got to see an added new character. She was awesome. She was terrific. The story was pretty interesting. It was fun to watch, and I actually can't help myself. It was an adorable movie, and I had to put this on the top of my list, on one of my lists, at least. So, yeah. I don't know what else to say about this movie. Number 3. I don't know why Gravity had... Well, I've seen 2 video segments so far with other movie fans and movie critics or movie-going fans, and I just... they made it their number 1, and I don't blame them for making it their number 1. I just don't see it being wasn't the best movie of all time this year. It wasn't one of my favorites, I'll say that. I heard about this word of mouth. Like the commercial, the trailer didn't get me, but word of mouth, people told me about it, and I just figured I'd go watch it, and I wasn't disappointed. The way it was shot was awesome. It wasn't actually shot in space. But the fact that it was shot like that and just the work they put into it was awesome. Just to see Sandra Bullock, George Clooney character involved in this, the dialogue not being too much. It wasn't an Oscar-worthy dialogue, but it was, it was there somewhere. And just to feel for Sandra Bullock's character in this movie, I'll give it some credit. Number 2. Okay, I'm going to try to go with this one as fast as I can, okay? Man of Steel had a lot to go on. This should have been on your first or your second on your top of your list. But it's definitely on my list. And here's why. Because it had to regain its credibility. It lost so much during its process. Why? Man of Steel had to build its credibility from Superman Returns, okay? Superman Returns bombed, okay? It wasn't that great. It wasn't even awesome. It was just terrible. So I had to regain its credibility like that, okay? So that's why I had to put this at one of my top lists, okay? Let me put this real quickly. It had 2 parents involved in this movie who actually gave the almost specific lecture, but all they really wanted for him was to make a choice and to be a better man for himself. Great. I'm still not really into Amy Adams being Lois Lane, but I'll still give her credit where credit is due. The movie, the fighting scenes were really awesome. The work they put in this movie was great. The whole the story of how Clark became Superman was beautifully done. I love the flashbacks they put in this movie of his childhood, so you would see what he would become in the later years of his super heroic career. You got to see a tad bit of taste of Krypton, which was not really done as much as I was hoping it would be in other movies. You got to see a whole bunch of Easter eggs for hinting out the old, Justice League movie. So what am I going to say about this movie? I'm going to say awesome, the best movie of my time. And I actually bought Man of Steel. Actually, I got it as a gift from my mom. Man of Steel, Despicable Me 2, and another movie. So it's actually the next one that's going to be on number 1. Yes, Fast 6. She also gave me Fast 6, just so you guys know. Yes, this had to be on my list. Okay, it did. Why? Because, okay, let me just say I'm not going to tell you the big one yet, but I'll tell you why I picked this on the strong points. Action, the car scenes, it does have an exaggeration in certain parts of the scenes, I will give you that. All in all, still one of my favorite movies of all time. Still one of my favorite, but you got to see the whole family of the Fast and the Furious franchise join in one movie. Okay, because you didn't see Michelle Rodriguez in the 5th installment, but you got to see her in this one, so that's why I said the family got together on this one. So I love that. Great. Way to put a movie. It was suspenseful, it was action, it was nonstop funny, it was just delightful to watch. Not the Oscar-worthy movie, but it was one of the movies that you could get really into and be like, all right, I love this movie. And the story wasn't too bad. The reason why I picked this as my number 1 pick is real simple. It contributes something. Okay, so if you're not aware already, Paul Walker had recently passed away in a car accident. That is very tragic, and the Fast and the Furious franchise had lost a member of their team. Now, instead of just playing it as, oh, he was just an actor in this movie that we were doing a franchise with, no big deal, they actually did their part. The productions actually decided that for each movie of Fast and the Furious that was sold, they were going to contribute some of that proceeds to Paul Walker's charity. I believe it's something to do with the Philippines. And that to me is admirable. That's actually really something that we should be doing as movie production fans. If a character does die in a movie, we should honor them with whatever they were proceeding in their life. And that's why I made this my #1 movie, because even though a fallen team member did die and they could have just said, oh, he was just an actor in our movies, they actually wanted to do their part by showing, hey, we cared about him. He was a part of the family. And just to even get him involved or get involved in his life and actually contribute to something his cause, I had to say that's what made this movie the #1 on my favorite list. Anyways, that's going to do it for us today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please subscribe or tell a friend. Please feel free to leave a comment below, and hope to see you guys in the next year. Happy New Year's, guys, okay? Peace.